Okay, welcome back to Hindustan Astrology. I'm Katya, and on Interviews with the Gurus today, we have a very special friend and colleague of mine, my dear friend Shehnaz Soni. Welcome, and thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you, Katya, for inviting me here today. I'm very excited about having a little conversation with you.
Yes, now the whole world gets to hear what we talk about because we have these interesting conversations. And she approached me, said, you know what, we should be talking on film because we really get to the bottom of things. And I've enjoyed our friendship since about 5 years ago. We met while making a film, and the women of today, and we have stayed friends ever since. And Shehnaz comes from a scientific background. She is a NASA scientist on contract currently right now. She's actually developing, she already developed rockets to Mars, and currently they are working on the moon mission. So that's very exciting. But what brings us here today is not astrology, but emotional healing and catharsis. And this is something that Shehnaz has recently gotten a certification in, life activation. It's something she did in Brazil. And she's been working with people teaching the Kabbalah. And, she's what she calls a pattern buster. So, there's a lot of life coaches out there today. There's a lot of people who have, the best of intentions to help people, but they don't necessarily have the background life experience, And to me, if I'm going to go to a life coach, I'm going to go to Shehnaz because she's a rocket scientist, Not only can she figure out the science, but she has figured out the patterns of emotions. And as a healer, it's so important to have both sides of the brain operating at the same time. And I just am so thrilled that she's doing this work now. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Katya. You've done such a great job explaining it. It's like amazing.
Well, I really am happy to see this because, like I said, there's so many life coaches out there right now, and it's hard to tell, who's real and who's fake. And I can tell you, this woman is very real. She came here from Pakistan and grew up in a strict Islamic family, and she always wanted to learn more. So she came to the United States. Like I said, has been a rocket scientist ever since and has 4 children. My gosh, is there anything that you can't do?
I guess life is very exciting, I have to say, and it continually challenges you depending on wherever you are. So the challenge never ends, no matter how far you come.
Right. So tell us about your experience coming from Pakistan to the United States. I think that's something that a lot of people will relish. I myself consider myself a Sufi, but I also am a Hare Krishna. So I'm kind of up there in Nepal, somewhere in the mountains in between. And this is, I feel like, such a resonance with your story. So let's share it with the world.
Yes. And by the way, you do look like Nepalis, so I agree with you on that. So I think it's very interesting because I have to take everybody back to the year 1991 when I was actually playing a veggie board game with friends. And, that was a very common game for us to play back home. That was probably the only connection to spirituality and spirit was actually that, which is pretty sad, right? Because that game is not even accepted here. However, we were playing the game, and because part of the thing is everybody at that stages when you're in your youth, you're looking to kind of escape the country because the condition of the country was never 100% ideal. There was always safety was a big question. There has been many times when I have passed by buses where the people were burned. And there has been times when, like rangers would come and take over the entire school or university. So you go through so many things where you see that you don't have a lot of control over your own safety, that you kind of do look for escape. And because of that, most of the girls at that age, when you turn 20 and so forth, you're looking to escape your reality. And the only way you want to escape because of the conservative upbringing is that somebody from outside will come and marry you. So one of the reasons we play those games in the board is people are making fun of each other that who is going to go to America
Wow.
by marriage. And it was very interesting because in that veggie board, my name showed up. And I wasn't even looking for it because I was extremely enjoying my studies at the NED University where I was studying at the time, engineering. I was a valedictorian in college. So for me, it was like I was able to pick the major I wanted and I was able to do the learning I wanted. So I was not really looking to escape. I wanted to finish my studies. So when my name popped up, I was like, oh, well, this is just a game. Who cares? And then a few weeks after, a man basically comes from America to look for a wife. He contacts his sister. His sister knows my cousin. My cousin contacts my mother, and they arrange a meeting for us to meet. We meet just for 1 hour, and I was the number fifth in the list of girls he had to see. So he'd already seen the 4 girls, and he had 7 girls lined up. So I was the fifth girl, and he saw me, and we talked for 1 hour. And in that 1 hour interview, he asked like a questions like, "Do you know how to cook?" And I was like, "Nope." And he said, "Do you know how to speak English?" And I said, "Nope." And so actually, it was funny because most of my answers were no. So it wasn't really yes, but I think he was very taken by my honesty. Like he was, and then he knew my caliber and where I was. So he felt like this girl can figure it out. Like even if she doesn't know right now, she has a potential to do it. And that was his criteria. So he was a smart man, I have to say. So yeah, he basically picked me, and from there on.
And you're very beautiful too. I'm sure you were the prettiest one.
Oh, thank you. So yeah, so after that, he basically pretty much we got married in a very short time, and within 2 weeks, my life turned around where I was married, and I was in America, and
Wow.
Los Los Angeles Airport is the place where I came the very first time, and it opened the door of the life that I can't even express in words.
Yeah, I remember when we looked at your chart, it was very clear when you came here. And we were like, oh my God, look at that. You know, you can't make this stuff up. Wow. And then when you got here, so had you finished your degree in Pakistan?
No, actually, that was one of the biggest challenge too. That I was basically in the middle of my finishing up my first year, and it's a 4-year program. So I wasn't even done with my first year, and because I got married and I was very close to finishing it up, I did not want to lose all that credit. So when I came back to America, it was like a fight for me to win, to even convince the schools to give me an admission because they were completely disregarding everything I'd done prior to coming to USA, which would have required me to go to school for 2 or 3 years before I can even enter into engineering school.
Right.
So I basically fought for it, and that taught me a lot too. That just by fighting for my own rights, which is what I actually teach in my coaching, is that how as soon as you decide you want to stand up for yourself, the entire universe is with you. But you have to take that daring step saying, you know what, I don't accept it. Because I never accepted when I was told, don't go to school, I became a valedictorian. When I was told no admission, I became an electrical engineer for UC Irvine. So I made it happen. And
that's why I love you.
Thank you very much.
No, it's true. It's true. And it's, out of all of the people in my spiritual community, like we were talking beforehand, it's very hard for women, especially in very traditional sciences such as Vedic astrology, to get respect, and it used to be in academia. I mean, I saw this with my professors when I got my master's degree that, from the 60s onward, if you were going to get respect as a woman in academia, you had to act like a man. You couldn't be feminine and, God forbid, show your emotions or something, you had to get respect that way. And it's something that we really have still not gotten rid of. And it's now we have a lot of women in Vedic astrology and other sciences. And I know from another friend of mine who is a scientist, like we said beforehand, I want to disclose who it is, but she said the same thing. If you're a scientist and a woman, it's very difficult because it's a man's world. And so for me, it's so refreshing to see somebody being able to bridge the two worlds.
Thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome. So before we talk about the life activation and exactly what kind of work you do, oh, by the way, you guys, her company or her name is Ashes to Sona, which is from Urdu, and Sona means gold, and her last name Soni is a derivative of the same root word, which also means gold. So what she is good at is alchemy and turning ashes into gold. I mean, literally. And for me, it's so refreshing because, like I said, we come from this, you know, most spiritual traditions, the ones that are popular, are masculine. And there includes with that a lot of directions you have to follow, a lot of, you know, discipline, a lot of very left brain activity. But the truth is that true spirituality is really about surrender. It's about contacting, you know, like I said, both sides of the brain, bringing it into a balance. And I feel like it's going to take women like you and more women like you in the sciences to bring this change about. It's bound to happen. You know, women are going to be in science more and more, and we have to break down these boundaries. So before we go on and talk about your work, I want everyone to hear a little bit about what it's like to build rockets for NASA. That's fantastic.
Yes, it's actually pretty exciting. I have to say that NASA has a very good culture. Like in terms of people, there's mostly a lot of women in charge of very important position. Right now, actually, for the human landing system that I'm working as a system engineer, the woman is actually the program manager, and she's a beautiful woman. And all of these people have a goal to go to the dark side of the moon because we have collected so much data already that now they want to put it all into practice. So we're going, yeah, I know that is the interesting thing, that we're going to the South Pole, which is the same as people think of it as dark side of the moon. And the goal is to go in 2024 and land there and stay there for a week, collect samples, and come back and use those samples to create a sustenance to live on the moon within 2 years of time frame, and then use it as a layover to go to Mars by 2030. So you can see this 10 years are extremely, like, I mean, we are in a very accelerated program, and there's just all these things we're doing we have never done before. So every single day when I'm in a meeting, we're talking about how are we going to do this? What are we going to do it? So it's a very interesting place to be right now.
It's so cool. Well, today, the planet Uranus is going direct, and it's in the sign of Aries, which is ruled by Mars. And Mars is in Aries right now, conjunct. And on the inauguration day, they're going to be exactly at the same degree. So while that, of course, that indicates war and violence and all this craziness we're seeing around us right now, it also indicates being a pioneer. Aries is the pioneer. Uranus is inventions. And so isn't it interesting that right now, today, when this is happening, we're having this conversation and we're talking about these explorations. And another thing that I keep trying to get people to focus on, I think I've posted it 3 times now in the past year, is that we have 2 great American solar eclipses happening, 2023 and 2024. The first one is actually, I think it's right after, well, I won't say, it's October 16th of 2023, and it's going to start in Texas, and it's going to go over the West Coast. And then April 8th, 2024, it's going to start in Texas, and it's going to go over the East Coast. And it's going to go right over my house. Like literally, we get the longest exposure at that time. And so it's in 4 years, right? And so that's another presidential election. And I keep telling people, keep the eyes on the prize. It's not, we are on a path of revolution and spiritual transformation. We have to break down the old in order to get the new. And right now is really the start of all this. Also, Pluto is in Capricorn now. sidereal, you guys, you know, I do sidereal positions, and it is now coming into a Pluto return with the United States chart. So Pluto takes 244 years to go around and come back to the same sign. And so only nations see this, right? People don't live that long. So what is Pluto? He's transformation, he's death, he's the power of the small, such as a nuclear, you know, reactor or nuclear explosion, or he could be the power of a virus to take you down, you know, that kind of power. It's also secret societies, but the idea is that it's transformation and revolution. And so that just like literally December 30th, Pluto went into Capricorn. And so all that coming around now is being shown in the work that you're doing also. And I think it's so incredible that you're able to talk and bridge both worlds. And, you know, it's like that hundredth monkey effect, you know, just you sitting there in NASA with other scientists and being a spiritual person without saying a word, your frequency changes things around you. And by you being in the spiritual community, you know, and being this pioneer, a scientific pioneer, you know, you're spreading that energy to other people, you know. So I think it's so wonderful. Let's talk about your work with the Life Activation course and what it entailed and how you use that to work with your clients.
Okay, so it's funny because like you just said that my presence is already busting the patterns in spiritual community and scientific community. So pattern busting is pretty much how I have navigated my life. And that's what I do as a life coaching. So I would say that my passion is to help people with the transformation, the conscious transformation. And in order to do that, I can do it many ways. I can help them by performing energy work on them, which is the life activation healing you mentioned. So that actually comes from King Solomon lineage. And it's a 3,000 years old modality that I learned in Brazil in the midst of COVID-19 in the year 2020, partly because my desire to learn always supersedes everything in my life. And what I have learned in that particular technique is that basically work with a client, it's only one-time thing, and it's like a 2-hour session. And what I'm helping them is activating their codons in their DNA so that they can receive more light, and then they can actually know what their purpose is. Just because by receiving more light, you're going to be more aligned with what your purpose is, and you're going to have the truth and understanding of what your next step should be. So I personally think it's a very great one-time thing anybody should do. And I'm not the only practitioner. We have many practitioners across the board in the Modern Mystery School. And wherever you are in the world, you can look for the life activation practitioner and to just get that one-time session. It's like a New Year gift for yourself. So that's one thing.
I mean, like Reiki, I do Reiki, so I'm familiar with that kind of energy healing. Is it similar to that?
You could say it's similar to that because you're working at the etheric level. So you're doing everything at the etheric level. And because of that, you're basically, aligning the person, like as you're doing many different things before you get to activating their codon. So you are definitely aligning their chakras, you're aligning their electric field, their magnetic field. So it's kind of like you're working on the aura to come to the point where you can perform this etheric surgery to actually activate the codons. And so it's kind of a tool that elevates humanity. That's just the way it's been expressed, and that's what it does.
Can you do it remotely, or do people need to be physically in your presence?
Yeah, so right now, based on my understanding, physically is the only way you can do it, which is why wherever you are, you can search for life activation practitioner, and there's pretty much they're spread out in the entire world.
But so you are going to find it. Shehnaz, I don't want anybody else.
Exactly. And that is why we will have to meet. So we will make it happen.
Yeah, you need to come to Hindustan. That's all there is to it, you know.
Yeah, so we'll definitely do that. So yeah, so that is actually one thing. But on the other hand, as I said, that I am like on a quest to integrate the science and spirituality. And I do that through my energy healing, but I also have other healing modalities I know. But I also teach because I want people to take full responsibility of their journey. And I teach people how to detect patterns and then change it for whatever they want to manifest. So it kind of becomes very easy when once you know what your pattern is. And by doing that work, I can help clients just within 1 hour to quit smoking. Because once they understand the root cause of their pattern, it just becomes, it's almost like now the light is already shining on it. And once you have seen something, no matter what, you cannot unsee. It's like once you're on a second grade, you can't go back to kindergarten.
Oh, that is so important. It is so important. You cannot unsee what you've seen. And, you know, I highly recommend her teaching you guys, because I can just say, as her friend, I have many friends, you know, all over the world, many strata of society. And Shehnaz is somebody who respects you and meets you at your level, doesn't talk down to you. One thing I've noticed that's unfortunate in the Vedic astrology field, I don't know about Western astrology because I haven't studied in it in years, but you have to be very careful of toxic teachers. And a toxic teacher is somebody who doesn't help you bust your patterns, but they kind of instigate you to repeat your patterns, and you keep making the same mistakes, and they make you feel bad about it. And they, you know, I have to say, you guys, if you've never given your chart to a teacher, don't give it to them. I'm sorry. I've had bad experiences with it where people will use your weaknesses in your chart and bully you about it. Like, oh, you're doing this or you're doing that, instead of helping you to bust the pattern. It's like, well, you're my teacher. You're not supposed to blame me or shame me or make me feel guilty about the negative tendencies I have, because everybody has them. Nobody's perfect. You know, even the biggest guru in India has things in his chart that he needs to work on, but you don't pick people about it. You help them. And this is why I think the work she's doing is so important, because it supersedes all of the mental learning stuff that you do with astrology. And it just gets right down to, you know, because what we do, which is similar to what you're doing, is we prescribe mantras. We look at somebody's chart and we say, okay, well, oh, you have a weak Mercury or whatever. So you need to do some mantras for Bud, Mercury. You know, focus on these meditations, use this yantra. You know, there's what we call remedial measures in Vedic astrology to help you rectify, or not rectify, but to remedy your chart, just to make your karma better, you know, so that you get rid of, you bust these patterns. The mantras are there to help bust your patterns. But unfortunately, with a lot of Vedic astrologers, because it doesn't come with a degree in therapy or psychology, you know. A lot of people, life coaches, astrologers, they take on the responsibility of being a therapist without having been trained to be a therapist. And this is why I think it's so important what you're doing, because you're not doing talk therapy. You're not telling them, oh, you should do this or that or whatever. No, you're getting right into the energy field and you're dealing right in with that DNA. And it's like, you are an engineer, you know, engineering them so that they are tuned up.
Right. And even through the energy healing, even through the teaching, my goal is to give you everything you need so you can make that decision, you can make that discernment. And, you know, it's funny you mentioned that, because I had a friend who, you know, was a very good psychologist, and she would get, you know, couples. She was a couple psychologist. So I told her that if you're a really good psychologist, then these couples should not be coming to you all the time, because technically you've done your work. And that's just the way I see it. Because see, for me, I would love my student to come back to learn something new from me, but not something that I've already taught, because then means I didn't do a good job. I mean, life activation is like
it means then you started a cult.
And that is the thing that my whole, yeah, because I want people to own it and take it and use it and be, you know, as powerful as everyone else needs to be, you know, it's like that.
Thank you. I had another discussion with another spiritual teacher of mine, and she's constantly going back and getting clearings. Got to get a clearing, another psychic attack. I'm getting another clearing. She's constant. And I said, don't you think that the first one should have worked, or first couple ones? We've had hundreds, maybe 1,000 clearings. This is, you know, it's like a business ploy. It's a marketing strategy. You know, it should work the first couple of times. You shouldn't be doing this for the money aspect.
And that is
of course
right.
you're appreciated and you are compensated for your time, but you know, if you're getting repeat clients all the time, it really makes me wonder what's going on here.
Right, because and if the person who's actually been performing the service on her should make her realize that you are kind of using this as kind of like a vicious cycle now, right? Because that is what we need to be very aware of, is what are we really doing, where now we have become, like, we initially had a good reason to do it, but now it has become like an addiction, kind of.
Right. And as soon as something bad happens, and I see this all the time in the astrology community, oh, I got this negative energy. Oh, I have to run and do my mantras and erase it. I'm like, well, maybe you should sit with it for a little while. Maybe, you know, like, maybe there's a reason why, you know, you have to keep running and doing your mantras, you know, like face it, face the darkness, you know, it's going to be all right. I mean, sometimes we have to argue, we have to fight with ourselves and others, but it's all for the purpose of getting to the equilibrium, you know, like in health, they say to the homeostasis, you know, where your body is, you know, out of the, and it was back into the autonomic nervous system, out of the sympathetic nervous system, which is where all the stress is, right? That fight and flight. And I feel like sometimes that's where people in spiritual communities are. They can't calm down, you know, and not be reactive and try to run and fix it, fix things all the time, you know?
Exactly. Exactly. I think that is the thing, the whole thing about accepting everything and integrating it, and rather than being reactive to it, or constantly running to someone to save you, kind of stuff, right? It's a mindset. And I think that is the thing, that the more empowered people can become, then they can own everything that comes to them and also know how to process it gracefully. And that's what ultimately my intention is to do with, based on how I've lived my life, you know.
Gracefully. That's exactly. And I think right now, especially in the United States where we are, there's this, you know, the impeachment went through for the second time today. People are so upset. People are just at each other's throats. And, you know, I want nothing to do with it. You know, like, I'm not even from this planet. I'm not owning this stuff, y'all. I'm here to help, you know? And so how we help is to disengage, to not be reactive, and to find our homeostasis, you know, do the things that bring you back to your center, whatever they may be. You know, mantras may not, you know, be good for you. Even what Shehnaz does may not resonate with you, but there's something you can do to disengage and bring you back to your center. And I look around me right now and it's scary. I don't like what I see on either side of the political party. I think all of it is just this. And I don't want to claim either side because I don't like this, you know? So it's the work you're doing is allowing us to see things from a different perspective. And that's not religious. And that's another problem with Vedic astrology, is that it is tied up with Hinduism. So people that from different backgrounds can shy away from it. Even though it is the science of light, it is based on the Hindu Vedas. So there's a lot of, you know, baggage tied in with that.
Right, but you know, people have embraced yoga, which came from Hinduism as well.
So yeah, but they're not doing it the way they should. I mean, it's yoga, but they call it yoga, but it has nothing to do with the real yoga. You know what I mean? Like, it's kind of become its own entity.
But even then, it's better than not having any yoga at all, because
it's better than nothing. I agree. Yes,
exactly. And to me, like, we all do that, right? Everybody puts their energy in and it transforms, and that's okay. And similar to with everything else, but we need to definitely leverage off of the information that comes from Hinduism or Buddhism, because these are extremely old religion and they have a lot of wisdom to offer. So you don't want to throw the baby with the bathwater.
Precisely. And that's why I study it, you know. But I feel like it's, you know, we're at a point now where, you know, we really have to like override those belief systems and like really do what it takes to get the message out to people on how to calm down. Which is, like I said, Uranus went direct today. So it's, we're being tested for sure.
Right. That is for sure. I
So
completely
if people want to get a reading with you and they are able, so you live in Alabama, correct?
Yes, I live in Huntsville, Alabama right now.
Okay.
Yeah.
So if people are physically able to travel to you, they can get life activation clearing. But if they want to be in your Kabbalah course, then they can email you and also go to your website. So what's that information?
Exactly. So my website actually is very simple. It's my first name, last name.com. So my first name is Shehnaz. It's ShehnazSoni.com. So basically, if you can know my name, you basically got it. And by knowing my name, you can look me up on Facebook because I do come up since my name is not that common. And my email address is actually live an amazing life at shehnazsoni.com. So basically, just like the way it's spelled, is live an amazing life at shehnazsoni.com. And we will make sure that we will have it in the link below so people can see.
Yes, I will put it in the comments to make sure you guys can get to it right away. And also she's on Instagram. So if you want, because I'm not on Facebook anymore, you guys, I deactivated because I was getting triggered too badly. So, but I am on Instagram and she is too. And she posts, pretty every day, every other day. So you can always, follow her there and contact her there. And yeah, it's just been a delight hanging out with you. I always enjoy our time together and I can't wait for more. I can't wait for you to come visit because I want to get my life activation from you.
You got it. Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much, Shehnaz. I just absolutely love you and I'm so grateful to be working with you, and just having you as a colleague in the spiritual community now. It just makes so much sense. So welcome aboard, sister.
Yeah, thank you very much. I'm looking forward to everything that's going to unfold.
Me too. Okay, bye.
Bye.